Welcome to the Cinefied podcast. Today we are talking about the brand new Netflix show that was previously released on BBC called Lord of the Flies. It's the fourth adaptation of this infamous novel from 1954, and it is something. Today I have a very special guest. We have Gigi, aka RoomForScream, here. It's like, how are you doing, Gigi?
I am doing great. I cannot wait to talk about this because I have some thoughts.
I think rightfully so. So, just for context, I have never read the book. I have very little knowledge. Honestly, going into this, I thought it was about kids becoming cannibals.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and then that didn't really pan out in this. I don't know if that's accurate. We'll get into that as well. But let's start with your knowledge of the book. When did you first read it, and have you seen the other adaptations?
I read this, it probably was like my freshman or sophomore year of high school. And that's so funny that you say that because like there are just some books that I feel like are required reading, like Lord of the Flies, like we were talking about To Kill a Mockingbird, like George Orwell's like 1984. Like there are so many where I'm like, oh, this like just everybody, or Catcher in the Rye, like everybody read this. This is just like what you read in high school. But I was talking to my roommates and boyfriend and I was like, yeah, you guys read Lord of the Flies. And they're like, nope. And I was like, what? And I was talking to so many people and they were like, nope, we didn't have to read that. I was like, wait, what the heck? But yeah, so I read this in like my freshman or sophomore year of high school, but I never watched any of the other adaptations. The only adaptation I have watched of it is Yellow Jackets, which is pretty much and it just, it takes its own like liberties, creative liberties of it, but it's pretty much an adaptation of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there, like I said, there have been three film adaptations. One in 1963, one in 1975, one in 1990, and then there was a long break. And then in 2018, inspired by Yellow Jackets, they actually made a film called Lady World, which was basically a take on this novel, but what if all of the characters were female?
Yeah.
And then I heard no one talk about that. I just found out about it on Wikipedia. So
Yeah.
I don't think it was successful. But now we have one in 2026. And they don't do any kind of modernization. It's still within the 50s.
Yeah.
I think that's you brought up Yellow Jackets. I've not seen Yellow Jackets. I know Yellow Jackets does lean into cannibalism.
Yeah.
So does the book have cannibalism?
Okay, so I thought that it did, but when I was going back, I actually don't think that the book did. The show does a pretty good job of like making an adaptation again. I read it in like my sophomore or like freshman or sophomore year of high school. So I was like probably like 15, 16. I'm 34 now. So it's been quite some time since I've read it, but I don't think that it did. But now I'm like in my head, so before I went in there, like before I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, they like, I know that they like go crazy and they start like, becoming like savages and stuff. And I was like, oh, and they start eating each other. But then when I was watching the show, I was like, no, actually, I don't think they become cannibals.
I started getting that feeling that, actually, there was a moment where I was like, oh, this is where the cannibal stuff's happening. And then it just doesn't come up. So I was just like, well, we're not doing that, I guess. But then I was like, I want to go in as blind as possible. I didn't look at like the actual like book, so that's why I wanted to ask you. So as far as you remember, there was not cannibal. It's just kind of like something like it's like the that effect where you kind of like think it does, like from your brain, like from the past.
Yes, like from the past. And then like because as I was watching it, I was like, that's kind of like what I assumed because there's just been so many adaptations of Lord of the Flies, which is inspiration of Lord of the Flies. And of course, like adding something in there would be cannibalism. Like if you're stuck on this island for an extended period of time, you're going to need, if food runs out, you're going to need food. Or like, like in Yellow Jackets, it becomes winter, so there is no food. So you turn to cannibalism. So it's like, I was going into it like, oh yeah. But then as I was like recollecting on the book and as I was watching, I was like, no, I was like, now I remember there was no cannibalism. It was more, I remember the kids killing each other, but they didn't actually eat each other. It was more so like, because the themes of the book are like, the main theme of the book is civilization versus savagery. Like what happens when we lose, a sense of structure or like a sense of authority. And so that is the main thing. And then the second, I guess like the secondary theme would be like this loss of innocence. So it wasn't so much like they were eating each other. It was more so that they were able to turn so, savage in order to kill each other. So I wish at the book they ate each other, or I wish the show they did. That'd be way more interesting.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. But I will say, like, I'm not a big, like, whenever anything, movie, television, doesn't matter, cannibal thing, like, I always think of, like, Eli Roth's, like, Green Inferno. I'm like, I just like, nope, can't, it makes me,
disgusting.
Squirm, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this is 4 episodes. It's, as I stated at the beginning, it did air on the BBC back in February. Netflix is just now coming out with it for the States on May 4th. And I'll be totally honest, knowing nothing about the source, I was kind of bored.
No, it's so boring. And I was so excited for it. I was so excited for it because I was like, oh, like, I've never really watched like a one-to-one adaptation of it. And I loved Yellow Jackets. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be so fun. But now I'm realizing how they adapted Yellow Jackets to make it more of like an interesting and in-depth show I'm like, oh my God, they knocked out of the park, because with Lord of the Flies, we're just watching them on the island. And so you're like, this is so boring, where you're like, okay, they're just kids being silly, goofy on an island and then like slowly turning savage. But it's like, we get it. And here they are on the freaking island again. And so like in Yellow Jackets, at least we have, I know you haven't seen it, but it's like we have them on this like crash land on this island, but we flash forward to them as adults, and so like back and forth. So it's like there's still so much story that we're invested in. With this, it's just like, okay, just start killing each other already.
Yeah, it takes a good minute. But yeah, we'll kind of. I know you made some notes about the episodes. I made a little bit of notes for the episodes, so we'll kind of break down things that we, I guess, liked and disliked throughout the episodes. But we don't want to go into 100% spoilers, but also this is a book from the 50s, and it's, as far as I can tell, a pretty like straightforward adaptation. So it's like, if you didn't read the book, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But one thing that I do want to state is that this show was created for television by Jack Thorne, who was the co-creator of Adolescence on Netflix.
I saw that.
And this has, like, I've just seen bits and pieces of Adolescence, but that was a critically acclaimed series. And this is also, as of right now, a critically acclaimed series, which I don't understand. But
that's crazy.
But I don't think the writing seems on par with what I've seen of Adolescence with this adaptation.
No, it's like, and what's really funny is like, it could just be the writing of it, but it's also like, I have to remember these are like child actors. I didn't think that they honestly did that bad of a job. I thought the child actors were pretty good. I usually don't like anything that has child actors. I'm like, you're just not good or annoying to me. So I'm like, I actually didn't think it was like that bad. It was mostly, well, okay, that was just the dialogue. I do think the writing was not good in the sense of like actually coming up with like a structure. And I'm like, how was the book so much more interesting and engaging, intense than the TV show was? I don't know. It's just so interesting that I'm like, I actually don't think that it makes that good of a film adaptation, because in a book you're like reading like, and it's tense, like all these like ways that they're slowly losing their innocence, but on screen it's just not as entertaining as it is in book form, which is crazy to me. I actually love like book to movie adaptations or book to show adaptations, especially with shows, because you can dive so much deeper, and like those emotions can really be on screen, or like the tension can really be on screen. And in here I was like, oh my God, it's like they stripped away all of its like savagery to me, and like just how like dark the book is.
Well, it seemed kind of like they stripped it of like, these characters felt very blank to me. Like
Yes.
they didn't have like, at times it was like, yeah, they had kind of like their humanity still intact, and then all of a sudden it's like near the end of the show they're like, now they're savages, but it's like we don't get that development. It's just like, obviously the Draco Malfoy dude,
Oh, for
which
real. I noted that too. I said Draco Malfoy question mark.
which is Jack,
Yeah.
which yeah, he's basically like a leader that comes into play, but yeah, I just like, he's so over the top from the beginning and so like irritating, and it like, but so is the lead who's on the screen right now if you're watching the visual representation of the podcast.
Oh, Piggy.
Like
Yeah.
Piggy, which is, his name's also Nicky, but they don't really go into that till like near the end of the series where they're like, yeah, his name's Nicky. It's like they bring up Nicholas near the beginning, but it's just like they call him Piggy the whole time.
Yes.
And he's also very annoying. I feel like the only kid that's not annoying is Ralph.
No, I 100%. And even like Ralph is like low key kind of annoying because he's like, but it's because he's peer pressured into doing things. So, okay, in the book, how the characters, and they did a good job. Again, this is like a really good one-to-one adaptation of the book, because I remember the characters, each of the characters represents something. So the character on the screen, Nicky / Piggy, because that's like all he's called. He's supposed to represent like some sort of like I guess intelligence and just like a strict like logic. There you go. There's the freaking word. So I haven't drank my coffee. Like logic. Like he's supposed to like be like, okay, this is like being innovative. This is like logic because he is the smartest on the island. Like they should have listened to him. And then Draco Malfoy, freaking Jack's character, is supposed to represent like savagery. And our character Ralph is supposed to represent like civilization. So that's kind of like where these two butt heads, where Ralph is like, no, we need community, we need order, we need rules. And then Jack is like, no, we should just run amok and start becoming this like, I don't know, savage community where we're just like losing all of our innocence. But I just don't feel like that was portrayed that well in the show, because it's like in the book, it's very clear. And again, I get it. They're like 12-year-old kids. So they still have some sense of like their freaking brain not being developed. So, you know, Ralph is like, he gets stuck in between like, you know, peer pressure and being like, well, I kind of want to just run amok, but we should have order. And he, you know, he has like Piggy as his little sound of mind to be like, no, we need to do this. And this is what's logical. And then we have our character of Simon, who's supposed to be this like Christ-like character. This like, he's just so pure and good just for the sake of being pure and good. And again, I don't think that that was portrayed well, because in the book, it's so clear that Simon is just like this pure, innocent, sweet, like loving character. And in the show, I was like, it's not that he's not. He is a kind character, but I was like, I just don't think that they really portrayed him as this Christ-like character. Like all these like breakdowns. I remember we had to write like essays on this book and stuff. And it's like all these like people would break down how he is supposed to be this, the only true good character on the island. And I'm like, you don't really even really see that in the show.
No. To me, see, I didn't really get that he was like such like a good person. I felt like he was kind of just a follower to whoever he felt like was in the right at the time. So like he was like, yeah, well, Jack's who I think is right, and then when Ralph comes into the picture, he's like, Ralph's my leader, and then he stuck with Ralph until like he basically just went mental, I guess, and went into the forests and and had an episode, which I do want to talk about that once we get to episode 3, but oh my god, I don't know what that was about. But the last thing before we start breaking out this episode was, or the first episode, is the score. I was not a fan.
Oh my god, oh my god, Connor, literally in my notes on episode 1 and 2, I said, hate the music. Like,
and did you see who composed it?
No, who?
Oh, it broke my heart. Hans Zimmer.
You're kidding me.
Mm-mm. He composed it with 2 other people, so it's not solely his fault.
Okay, so it's not solely his fault. You can't blame him.
But it's yeah. When I saw his name, I was
that
like,
is shocking. That is shocking because it's so like, I feel like it didn't match the tone. Like at certain scenes, it didn't match the tone, and then it's like half of the time it just sounded like nails on a chalkboard, which I understand maybe the emotion that they're trying to evoke in those moments, but like it just didn't evoke that. I'm like, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. It doesn't sound like I'm like feeling anxious about anything. And that's the thing. It's like this entire series, there's no sense of like anxiety. There's no sense of like, I don't care about these characters. Like, I'm like, I truly do not care about these characters. Like in episode 1, there's, without any spoilers, there's like an event that happens, like a tragic event that happens. And I'm like, I was comparing it to it and like the Black Spot episode where I'm like, that was such like a heartbreaking episode because it's like, you're like, oh my God, like I care about these characters and they're going through this. And it's like, oh my God, like I was like in tears. And then like, I'm watching the first episode and I'm like, we don't even freaking know. I don't care. We don't know any of these kids. Like, and then the ones that you have introduced us to fucking suck. So I'm like, they can all die for all I care.
Yeah. Nope. I agree. This show frustrated me. I'll be honest. I also was very pumped to like check it out, especially with the reviews that I saw going into it.
Yeah.
And then I just could not connect with the kids. I was not feeling any tension like between the group. And then I just felt like when we introduced some adult characters near the end, I was just like, I don't like any of these adults either.
No.
So I was just like, all these characters in this show suck.
They're so unlikable. And it's just like, and I just don't think, again, I don't think that the writing, because even if they were unlikable, they could still have depth to them. For example, I'm thinking of The Pit. Like, this is so freaking different from like Lord of the Flies, but like it's very topical. It's like there are purposefully unlikable characters, but at least they have depth and storyline where I'm like, okay, they're at least a character that I somewhat care about in my mind. Like, I can't stand Dr. Santos. I know some people are all for Dr. Santos. Can't stand Dr. Santos. But I'm like, at least there's like depth and purpose to her character. And these kids, like the unlikable ones, I'm like, I don't care. And like, I just don't feel like there's any depth to you. Or like anything that I'm really clinging to, even like why you're unlikable. Like, I still like you, like, you know? And so I just don't know. But I have to say, the one thing that truly bothers me so much about this series, well, there's 2 things, is the coloring and the way that it's shot. It's like, why is it so blurry all the time? It's just blurry all the time.
See, when you texted me that, I wasn't paying that close attention to that. There was like this weird fishbowl effect that they did.
Yes.
Like that annoyed me. And I was just like, well, maybe this is just some weird style they're doing. But then it's also that there's this weird glossy tint that's like a lime color up near the beginning. But then when the first blood is spilled, it's all of a sudden crimson everywhere.
Yes. Oh my God. I hated it. It just felt like we were watching it through like they bumped the contrast up to like 1000. And I was like, what is this? Like it just looked so, it was like visually so unappealing to look at that I was like, maybe that's like another thing too, where it's like, I can't even focus on these characters because the show itself looks so ugly that like, it's like so unfortunate. It just looks very ugly that you like don't even want to invest your time in. And yes, the fishbowl effect, I was like, what the hell is this? And then it kind of just like, I don't know what it is with like modern things. I've been noticing that a lot, like and these like modern TV shows, they will do this like in the first episode, it's very apparent though, this weird fishbowl effect, but like they do this thing where it's like the edges are like glossy or like blurred, and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, we don't see this in film.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm like, why are the edges just blurred? I'm like, it's just is so distracting.
Do you think it's supposed to be where like you're not focusing, you're not supposed to focus on the blurs, so you're supposed to like center in on the stuff that's, you know, clear as, you know, day, you know,
I
but
think
it's
so.
doing the opposite effect.
Yes, I think that's exactly what it is. I think that they're like, okay, this is the central focus. So like it's almost supposed to be like, oh, this naturally draws our eyes to it. And I'm like, no, it just looks so off to me. I've noticed this a lot in modern, honestly, TV shows, and like especially like big studio stuff like Netflix that are really just dumbing down things. But again, this is like a BBC original, so I can't even blame that. But I do think that a lot of studios are following suit of like dumbing down their media for the common audience. And it's like, I'm like, what is this? Like, why are we doing this? It's so distracting because when you go into a movie, like if you're watching like, for example, Project Hail Mary or something like that, it's like, we don't see this weird blur effect. Like, what? I don't understand why they're doing this. It's so unappealing.
Yeah, I don't understand that, the coloring. Yeah, and yeah, it's just like they have small instances where like some water looks really pretty, but that's usually like the little bodies they find in the forest. It's not like the actual sea. The sea looks very one note, like it doesn't have like any like, usually like you're on a paradise island, even in like Castaway, you know, Tom Hanks, you have like the gorgeous ocean, and you're like, yeah, he's stranded, but you know, he's stranded in paradise, and then you learn, oh, this is, you know, not this is actually hell, you know, purgatory. But yeah, I just didn't get that feel. It's just kind of like you don't have like that kind of like sense of the environment they're in. It's just kind of like they're focusing on the characters, and that's one thing that as we now jump into the pluses and minuses of each episode. The first episode, we and you're cool jumping into it now.
Oh yeah, totally. No, totally.
Okay. So we jump into our introduction to Piggy, aka Nicholas, aka Nicky. He goes by Piggy most of the show, so we're going to reference him as Piggy.
Yeah.
And it's essentially, we don't have any idea who this kid is. He just wakes up and he finds his glasses. He stumbles through the forest, and he has. There's moments like what I'm about to describe that happen throughout the entire show, where they're wandering through a forest that is now their home.
Yes.
And he sees a stream, and he jumps over the stream. He giggles to himself. He goes back, does it again. I'm just like, what is this? What is this like filler? So like that's our introduction to him. Like we don't have any backstory. We don't know about any kind of accident or anything. It's just this kid in a forest. He comes up against Ralph, or comes to Ralph, who is this nice kid, and introduce each other. And this is where we learn that Piggy has asthma.
Yeah.
And he can't keep up with the pack. This comes into play throughout the show, but then near the end, it just kind of like disappears entirely.
Oh my God, I was going to say the same thing, because it's like usually, you know, when you introduce a character with asthma, it's like, oh, okay, this is foreshadowing. They're going to die of this some sorts. And maybe that, like, because we know Piggy's fate, where it's like, maybe this was like just like a red herring or just like something to be like, oh, okay, this is again kind of this thing against this negative characteristic against Piggy, because of course Piggy is like the smartest, most logical character on this island, and if they followed him, they would have been just fine. But it's like they don't like him because he's short and fat and wears glasses, and he has asthma. So it's like maybe that's just like a negative strike against him, but it's just continuity. It's like keep it up until the very end. Like especially when like the crazy things are happening, and it's like, oh, and now he's not having an asthma attack when he's running through the forest.
Yeah, no, and so it plays such a factor in the first episode for sure, with what happens at the end, and then they just drop it. It's very weird. But they basically decide to basically Ralph is like, I need some water, and he's like, well, you can drink coconuts. He's like, I need to bathe. Bathe is a thing in this film. I don't know why they like to bathe together. Like that's the whole thing they keep bringing up. They're like, we it's like we think the best when we bathe together. Like they say that line, and I'm like, that's just weird. And it's so odd too because it's like a rainforest type environment they're in, and there's literally no animals except for some insects they do shots of and pigs.
Yes.
It's just like there's something in that water. I expected like a snake to grab one of them or something, but no.
Something, no. And like going back to what you were saying about Piggy like leaping over this like stream, again, I think this has to do with writing because I took that scene as they tried to inject that these are still kids. Like they're still these innocent kids. So it's like, oh, that's cutesy and silly. Like he's so kid-like doing that, and then we'll see what they become. But again, I just don't think that it was written well. And they have a lot of meaningless filler scenes where we're literally just like looking at insects, like ants kill a caterpillar, and you're like, okay, like, or like just like them splashing in the water, but it's like we can't even see them. They're like blurred out and like far away in the distance. It's like not even an intimate scene where we can truly see like, again, I just don't think that they captured their innocence well. Like that's the whole point of the book is their loss of innocence. Yeah. And even though they tried to put these little glimpses like that, it's like they watered down the rest of these random filler scenes that the scenes that him jumping across the scene like just didn't even matter because like I even wrote in my notes, it's like, what are all these random scenes? Like there's just random scenes that feel like they mean nothing, that they don't actually add to the story. It just feels like it drags. Like they were like, we need to make each episode an hour. So we're just going to freaking show them doing literally nothing. And that's going to add to the storyline.
Yeah, it's just like what do we have on the B-roll to put into this to make it an hour? Yeah, you're right. They are, each episode is an hour long. There's no need for it to be an hour long. Like and also like if I mean we're going back to the BBC part. BBC is known for doing like long episodes. So I'm like, and then they have commercials throughout. So like you look at like Sherlock's like an hour. You know, it's basically a movie and episode, like and so forth. So this is actually shorter for a general BBC episode. So I will say, like, that's good, I guess. But it's like, there's no reason for it to be. It should have probably been, honestly, like a 2-part special. Like, there's no reason for them to have stretched it to 4.
No. And like, all I know is that these kids probably had the time of their freaking life filming this because truly they're just fucking off this whole season. And we just see that like, they're just like, because all these filler scenes of them just being like, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's like, and it's, again, it's just not intimate enough to be like, oh, look at them just being kids. Like, oh, they're so sweet and innocent. And then we have freaking Jack over here being a jackass like to them, and it's like no, we don't even get to see that. Like it's just so silly to me. Yes, and that brings me to another character, Roger, which is they did such a disservice to his character because Roger in the book, because there's really only in the book. There's only like, I think 5 main characters. There's Piggy.
I would just go ahead and real quick interrupt. What's interesting is on the Netflix press notes that they sent over for this show, they only list 4 core characters. They don't even mention Roger as the core character. They just mention Simon as one of the characters, Piggy, of course, Jack, and of course Ralph.
Yes.
And then they have a long like thing about each character, but they do not talk about Roger. So that kind of goes into what you're saying.
It's just so funny because like, in the book there's like 5 and they do have them all in the show. It's Piggy, Ralph, Jack, Simon, Roger, and then there's Sam and Eric, the twins. And like, so if we're thinking, for example, transferring that to Yellow Jackets, all of those characters are so blatantly obvious in Yellow Jackets. Like even Sam and Eric, the twins, like in Yellow Jackets, we have a set of twins in there, a brother and sister. And like, and it's just so like, or no, not a brother and sister. They're technically like a couple in Yellow Jackets, but because they're always together. And so it's like, so we can like clearly point out like, oh, this is this person, like who they mirror. But in Lord of the Flies, I was like, wait, like Roger's character is supposed to be in the book, is supposed to be this truly evil character, like just has no sense of like morals. And like, so it's funny to me that Jack like represents like, you know, this savagery where, you know, Ralph is like, okay, we need a civilization, and Jack is like, no, let's just fucking just go crazy. And Roger is kind of like his sounding board to be like, yes, like let's do bad shit and let's just be evil. And I have no sense of conscience, which we see in the show, what happens, what transpires. But it's like in the show, he's just some freaking random character. He's not even important whatsoever. And like, it's just,
well, that's how I felt. Cause like, he's there, but I didn't really know like you always hear the name Ralph, you always hear the name Piggy, you always hear Jack, you know, you hear Simon from time to time, but you never hear Roger really up until the last episode, and then you don't hear the name of the twins like ever. So I was just like, I don't know these characters. So when we'll get to that, but essentially the what we're at right now is they are just now kind of like creating a structure system, like where we just are introduced to these two characters. They find a shell, which they're gonna basically a conch shell, which they use basically like you see in like, you know, modern movies and stuff. They'll use like a stick or something. Like if you're holding the stick, this is it means you can talk. Which they don't really
the talking conch.
Yeah, the talking stick. Yeah, and they use that to an extent. It doesn't go well as you'd imagine with a pack of kids, but they use that as basically a horn or a signal to lead everybody in. You realize there's a lot of kids here.
Yes.
And there's not just that many kids. There's also a bunch of other kids that are part of Jack's pack who are all dressed to like a 9 in these uniforms, which does not make sense because in the flashback we get in episode 2 called Jack, he's not wearing that outfit.
No.
So they had to found all their luggage and put them on.
Yeah. And also, like, it's just so funny to me. Again, I'm going to draw comparisons to Yellow Jackets because it's just another adaptation. In the first episode of Yellow Jackets, it's like they crash land. And so we're seeing them like, oh my God, we just crash landed on this island and they're looking for their luggage, the adults, what happened. And it's like here, they're just like, yeah, I guess this is our life now. And I'm like, wait, you just like, you're not going to look for the plane. You're not going to look for any adults. You're not going to look for any of your luggage. Like, and it's like, they had enough time to do that in the episode. Like you have the time because you're just filling it with random shit in here. And I'm like, that could have just, again, added so much more to their loss of innocence where they could have been freaking out like, oh my God, there's no adults and we don't know what to do and we don't have food. And they were just like, yeah, okay, let's start a government. And we're like, what? Jumping
to things.
It's just so crazy to me.
It's just like they ultimately decide to Jack wants to take over power because Jack is he just is a power obsessed person who basically has much more of a front than he actually has like inside of him. Like he's fearful of all kinds of things on this island. And if anyone calls him out, he has a rage attack and comes at them. But it's him and Jack, Jack and Ralph and Piggy and Simon all go on a trek uphill where they actually do discover a dead pilot
Yeah.
which then they have a little rage thing with the pilot about how it's his fault that the plane crashed, which I sort of get. But then they decide to throw him off a cliff.
Yeah.
So
And it just, and again, this like, there's no depiction of this loss of innocence because they're just like, oh, and here's the dead pilot. And you're like, okay, you're literally like 11, 12-year olds. Like,
yeah,
you like, this is your first time probably seeing a dead body. And like, you should be like, oh my God. Like, you know, and they're just like, whatever. Like,
yeah, they're just basically like putting up the middle finger at him, basically.
yes,
Like,
they just don't care. And it's like, and I get like, you know, these certain like Jack and all this are just like savagery, but it's like he's still a kid. Like he's still a kid and he has like emotions. And again, if we're treating this as like they're supposed to be like this loss of innocence and it's just like just loss of goodness, it's like
yeah,
you should have some type of emotion towards that. Like that's why it just doesn't really we just can't really connect with these characters because I'm like, dude, they're just like shell of humans.
No, they are. Yeah, and the most human thing is what Piggy tries to do, which is try to bury the body instead of chucking it off the cliff. But yeah, I mean that just it's like you said, he's kind of the only one with rationality. Like he's like the brains of the operation, but no one's willing to listen to the brains.
Yeah.
But they ultimately find the top of the cliff that they're climbing and learn that there's nothing in the distance as far as ships, and they decide to start a fire. They basically, I think during that time, they start gathering woods, and then Jack and Piggy go on their own to try to find a pig, or I think they're just gathering wood and Piggy comes across a pig, right?
Yeah, because like Piggy's kind of just like, I think he's like chasing the pig or like running around like
which it seemed very like playful.
Yeah, like he's kind of being silly with the pig.
But then when Jack came around, it was like, oh no, like I'm chasing it to kill it. Like it seemed like very much like it didn't seem like you were gonna kill it, Piggy. It seemed like you were just chasing it for fun.
Yeah.
But then when it gets trapped and there's like the whole blame game where Jack won't kill the pig, and then it's like you should have not let it go, blah blah blah. It's just like I don't think either of you were willing to kill this pig at this point in time.
Yeah,
so it's like it's both your faults, but Jack can't, he can't take the blame for anything. He pushes the blame on anyone that he's in sight.
Exactly, which is very much like a part of his character. I do think that they wrote that well, but it's just like, again, their characters just have no depth. But going back to the pig, the CGI in the show is so awful.
I'm curious about what you beyond the pig. Well, what else stood out to you as far as CGI?
Okay, so there's two things that stuck out to me. There's one in episode 2 where they're on the top of like the cliff or whatever, and I think they're trying to start a smoke signal, and the CGI of the smoke is horrendous. And then the second thing, it's when Jack is staring at himself in the water.
Oh, I have that in my notes. Yeah,
I truly feel like that was AI. Like it genuinely looks AI.
I wrote. Let's see.
I literally wrote used AI ? Because it genuinely looks AI.
Okay. I said the CGI reflection in the water at the end of episode 2 reminded me of Zac Efron in High School Musical 2 while singing "Bet on It," where he like splashes the water.
But isn't it so bad?
It's like because it's not a reflection; it's just a clear image of him like transferred onto the water.
Yes. So no, and it's like, and it's weird. Like it just doesn't look realistic. Like when I was looking at Rotten Tomato reviews of this, somebody said like, oh, it's just like CGI slap, and they said like it felt like AI renderings of things, and I was like, oh my God, because even certain like scenes in the rainforest look AI, or like these big overall shots look just not real. Like it just doesn't look real, and it doesn't help that the coloring is so also unrealistic and just like ugly that I'm like, this very well could be, because it just nothing about it looks and feels realistic.
No. It looks. You might be right. It could be AI. I'm not going to point the finger that it is AI,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, it could be, because there's like you've said since the very beginning, there's a lot of blurring. So
Yes.
they could definitely easily use AI. They could use AI and been like, hey, this looks rough. Let's blur it out. So,
Exactly.
but basically these episodes don't contain a lot. So it's basically
No.
like it's a lot of scenery shots where they're basically the pig escapes. They end up starting a fire sometime during that. We see the two little kids, one with this big birthmark on his eye, which I
Mhm.
didn't realize a birthmark at first. I thought it was like an injury from the plane crash at first.
Uh-huh.
But it's him and another little kid, and they're playing by the water of lizards. And
Mhm.
then during this scene, I don't entirely understand. It's basically, was that Roger or was that Jack messing with the kids? Like
I
at the
actually
first,
don't know.
yeah, because they both have blonde, shaggy hair.
Yes.
So, which if you're saying Roger's supposed to be such, we can feel free to curse like an asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it feels more in line to him than I feel like Jack isn't like one to like taunt these kids. He's just
Yeah.
basically like, when he's put into this situation, he's like, he's there to insult them, to get them to do things he wants. But
Yeah.
he's trying to like put fear into it. And he's the one that kind of like brings up, I think like doing the tossing in the water is what brings up the whole thing about the creature.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that might have been Roger. I wasn't even like paying attention that closely of like what was even happening at that time. But like it very well could have been, because I think like what you were saying, like Jack is so like, he puffs out his chest, but he doesn't actually like taunt anybody. Like
Yeah.
He's very forward with what he does. He name calls and stuff like that, but he's not, I don't know, sneaky in that way.
Since this show's already out, I'm seeing if maybe Wikipedia has a breakdown of everything.
Oh, yeah. That's so funny that it's already out.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it just, that whole thing. And then we have where the kids go back to the beach, and they have a meeting with the conch, and the kid kind of whispers to Piggy about how there is a monster. They saw a monster in the night, and no one believes these little kids. They set off the fire with this really like terrible wood that's dried out, and it causes at the time, what looks like half the forest to set ablaze.
Yeah.
And in that time, I assume, lose the kid with the birthmark, because he never is seen again. They kind of imply that he died in the fire, because we see the other kid that was hanging out with him crying.
Yes.
Did you get that same feel that that's what occurred at the end of episode one?
Yes. So that is what happened, because in the book he dies as well. He's like the first death. But like, again, that was kind of like what I was comparing to in it, like with the black spot, because it's like a big fire scene. And so it's like, and again, with like it, that was like, what, 4 episodes in or something. So it was like we had more time with these characters and like their importance and stuff. But it's like we weren't given anything about these kids to care like about what was going on, and it lasts for so long. Like that fire scene is like 15 minutes long, and so it's like we see these kids like running around and crying, and so but it just gets so, it's like it's going on and on, and you're like, I don't know any of these kids.
Well,
so like, what is
it's
it
also
matter?
just way too chaotic, and
Yes.
it's hard to focus on, because as you're saying, like, we don't know these kids. They start this fire at the top of the cliff. They have to race down the cliff, and we see this is an instance with Ralph, I keep getting these characters confused, with Piggy with his asthma, and he faints in the forest.
Yes.
But then even though the forest is ablaze, he somehow wakes back up and makes it out of there, right? He doesn't get dragged out.
Yeah, I don't know how. There's so many scenes like that too, Connor, where I was like, all of a sudden, how is he here?
Yeah.
Like so many, like where I was like, okay, well, he passed out in the forest, and then all of a sudden he's on the beach, I guess. And like, it's so, because I don't think that he was dragged out, unless it was insinuated that Ralph dragged him out, but I don't
like he
know.
does at the end of the story. But yeah, they don't really give an explanation of why he wakes up on the beach. And then there's a whole thing where we're coming to consciousness with Piggy, and it's just like they won't wake up. It's like, who won't wake up? The little kids? Like,
Yeah.
why aren't they waking up? Like, I
No,
don't like they're not.
exactly.
It doesn't make sense to me. If I was a little kid, like I would be freaked out. I would not be even capable of sleeping on that island. So I don't
No,
understand.
no, exactly. And it's just so funny, like what you were saying, it's so chaotic that it's like we can't even be emotional for it, because it's like if they were showing us like kids on freaking fire or them crying, it's like we would obviously like just as an audience be like, oh my God, this is so devastating, or like, oh, they're scared. We don't even see that. Again, going back to this theme of like this loss of innocence, this was a chance to show us like they are just kids and they're scared, and they don't even show that. It's like the camera's just all over the place and we just see like them like we just see like mobs of them running, and it's like at least focus on a couple of them where it's like we can truly have some sort of emotional reaction to this, but we don't even get that. So you're just like, okay, this freaking fire happens and this one random kid dies that we got 1 second with.
Yeah.
Like it's just like there's just no care.
Yeah, it's just the one little kid that was brave enough to kind of step forward and kind of like tell his truth about this monster that's amongst them. But yeah, it's
and this monster ice.
Yeah, I have so many questions about that, and I'm hoping you can answer them from your knowledge of the book. But we're getting to that, and it popped up a little bit later. But episode 2 is honestly like that's the thing. It's like the first episode we have, even what we just broke down, is not a lot that happens in an hour. And episode 2 has even less.
I was going to say. I have 3 notes on it. Like nothing happens in episode 2.
But that's the first time that we get a flashback of the plane is episode 2. We do each episode is named after the core 4.
Yeah.
And so this is Jack's episode, and Jack is basically dedicated to killing a pig. That's all he wants to do.
Yes.
Now that he's messed up the first time, and him and his hunters or his original clan want to, kill a pig. That's what they want to do. And that's all that happens in this episode.
No,
like
for real.
There's issues with Ralph not having like a say in things. And then Jack being like, like I'm going to say things without a conj. It's back and forth. And then ultimately they find pigs and that are awfully CGI'd, and they circle them and kill the pig. I mean, and instead of, I will say that was like, even with it being awful CGI, like, I'm like, I don't need, like, the slitting the throat, like, that was fine with me, but it was like the them hitting it over and over. I was just like, there's no need for that. Like,
yes.
You stab it. You have like a sharpened thing. Like, why aren't you stabbing it? Why are you like hitting it with the dull end? It's like
no, and again, like, I do think that was like them trying to be like, okay, they're slowly turning savages, where it's like they don't even have this like care, but we don't get that. We don't get any I don't know, like downhill of their character to be like, oh my God, I can't, like, it's just kind of like, you dumb kids, why are you doing that?
It's exactly. So and we get one character, and I just from the way that he sounded, I feel like maybe it was Simon that was in on this hunt, basically, but Simon's been being back, but with with Ralph, so I don't know. But someone's like, will all the little piglets die now that the mom's dead? And I was just like, oh, this is one kid that still has a little bit of humanity, where they're like, I feel bad for the little baby pigs. But then I don't think that character is like really pronounced. Like, it's never like, this is who this character is. I think it's just like a background kid.
I think so.
There's so many kids in this show. And if you look on IMDb, like a majority of them are just called ensemble. They don't even have names. So, pretty much the only other thing that happens in this episode is that they're all happy. They're doing like an army chant while holding the decapitated pig with like the pig's head on its stick.
Yes.
And march to the beach where a big ship is there. But because they were so worried about hunting, they forgot to make the fire like again. And so the ship goes away.
Yeah.
And then there's anger.
Yeah.
But that's episode 2. I don't think I missed anything.
No, literally, that's all it is. It's like they want to kill a pig, they kill a pig, and they're like, oh shit, there's a ship in the distance. We got to start a fire again. And then that was it.
I forgot one thing that does happen in that episode. And it's when they're doing their march, they all of a sudden, instead of continuing their march, they're like, we're going to bathe. And they jump in. But then somehow, like, they bathe, but somehow, like, they still come out and there's still blood all over them. I'm like, did the water do nothing?
I was gonna say that too. Like every time they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go like take a bath," it's like they're still like disgustingly dirty. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I don't think that water's good.
And it's like, I don't know, like what I'm assuming, because I don't really remember them bathing a lot in the book, but that's just because I don't remember. It's just I'm assuming that what the representation of that is them kind of just like washing away like their like these like sins and their bad decisions, where it's like that's just like they just know, like, okay, like they're holding on to like a routine, like I just know that I have to bathe and like wash away all my griminess and dirtiness. So that's what I'm assuming, is that it's like the bathing is like, okay, these are these kids just like washing away all of the bad things that they're doing on this island, and like it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I just know that that's how the book is written. Like everything is supposed to have some sort of like meaning, like, you know, it's like symbolism. Because like same thing with like the conch is supposed to represent really like again like a sense of like order. You know, it's like if you have the conch, if you have the conch, then you get to talk. And as the episodes go on, we no longer have the conch, and so it's like that's when we can really see like, oh, this is like anarchy now, you know. So it's like that's what I'm assuming the bathing is. But again, it feels there's no the writing is just not good for there to feel like there's symbolism to it to how much they bathe.
All very valid points. About, I feel like you might be right that it's kind of like washing away, like, but it just felt like they did that a lot.
Exactly.
And they have, like, you know, in like a movie like Clueless or something like that, it's like, you know, they're trying on stuff. That's basically, they find a bunch of luggage and they're like, here, let's try on all this stuff. Let's read a book. Let's do a montage, you know? And that's, And so Jack's like, don't read that diary that you found. And he takes it, and the episode ends with him reading the diary, which we learn is the diary of Simon. Which plays almost no factor into episode 3.
I was going to say,
think was weird.
I don't even really like, again, this is not, I was really, because like episode 3, I was like slowly losing interest. And then episode 4, I was like, I'm so checked out of this show. And like, we know where it's like heading, but I don't even really, one, remember, and two, just from what was portrayed, like what the importance of the diary was. Like, I don't really understand that.
At first, I thought it was when we go into episode 3. Basically, we have this diary pops up, and it's Simon. It's his diary, and Jack's reading it, and Jack's like admits that he's read the diary. He's like, it's the most depressing story, you know, that I've ever read. And so when he basically manages to steal back the diary, he burns it right away. Which, like, I'm not exactly like, because he doesn't want his story out there, or I'm not exactly sure why he does that. But there's very clearly at the very beginning of this new episode where the ship has abandoned them, and they have basically lost a little bit of hope. And so Jack basically decides, hey, we're going to split off into 2 camps. I'm sick of you being my leader, Ralph. I'm going to do my own thing. Who wants to come with me? And then no one comes with Jack at first. But then all of a sudden, all of his original clan, except for Simon, join him for a swim. Which I'm like, okay, so why were you like, I'm not going to come with you? But then all of a sudden you're like, I'll come with you. Is this your fun camp?
So. It was, and again, that wasn't even like, it's just like the writing is just so bad because you're like, I know what this should portray in my head, like, is that they're trying to form a sense of government and they can't. And so these anarchist children are breaking away. And so we know what's going to ensue. It's like these people that have no sense of govern and rules and law and morals versus these people that are really trying, they're going to clash. But it's like in the show, it's just like, okay, these fucking dumb kids just over here, just go play and swim. I'm like, I don't care what you do.
It's pretty much the moral is like, I don't care what these kids do or say, or I just do not like them.
Yes.
Like, I think by the end you're supposed to be like, yeah, I think kids are bad.
No, literally, I'm just never having kids. They're dumb.
I think we're in sync. All right, so essentially they've changed camps. Jack's on his own. He has his own clan. It's basically where we started at the beginning, where they basically are two separate camps altogether. And basically they come together because the twins have seen the monster, the beast, whatever they want to call it, while on a cliff. They're so certain they've seen it. It has claws. It's scary. And so they decide to pack together for the first time in Union to go and kill the beast, or at least look at the beast. But I think the idea was they were going to kill it. They go up to the very top of the cliff where they saw the beast, and there's this very quick flash where Simon blinks, and then we see the beast. And I paused it very, like, it took me a minute because I kept skipping it because it was like such a blink second.
It's like half a second. It's so quick.
Did you catch what it was? What the beast was that they saw?
It looked like it was like the tarp almost, right? Like, but I didn't see what the face was.
So it's what I believe it was it's someone that tried to escape the plane while it was going down and parachuted out. And so that's the parachute. And then that was just their face from just probably decaying from the way they.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because I didn't know what the tarp thing was, but that makes a lot of sense. It would be like
I don't understand why it would all of a sudden prop up or anything, or if he was just propped up and the breeze caused the parachute to float up, and that's when like we saw him. Like that whole thing makes no sense. But I think that is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to just be a human that died on impact.
Yes, so. Honestly, you're probably right. That's probably what it was. I know. Okay. The beast on the island is supposed, like in the book, is supposed to represent like this because there is no beast. We know that there's no beast. It's just like these kids are scared, and that's what it's supposed to represent. It's just like this internal fear because again, they're just kids. Like it's supposed to be this fear that they have, just this innate fear, and especially this childlike fear, and so like, but I don't feel like that was portrayed well because in Yellow Jackets, there's also a beast, or there's something off with the island that they're on. And that's like, and it's just so, it's depicted so much better because in Yellow Jackets, it's like
in Yellow Jackets, it like there is actually like something wrong with the island, or is it just like this and it's actually just the people that are on it that are making it a bad island?
Okay, so it in Yellow Jackets, it almost feels supernatural. Like they feel like something supernatural is going on with the island, that there's something like negative there. But again, I do think it's still supposed to represent like their fear of like what it could be, because like they don't know if it's just in their head. They don't know if it's like something supernatural in Yellow Jackets. But in Yellow Jackets, they have this like, we can see that whatever this beast supernatural thing is slowly unraveling them. Like it unravels these kids, and they're so afraid of the island, and like so they start turning on each other because they're like something is off, and this stirs up this fear inside of them.
Okay.
So they start like lashing out and becoming paranoid, and like that's why we see this sense of like them falling apart. And in Lord of the Flies, that's also what's supposed to happen. Is this beast is supposed to instill this fear where they're just like, they're so paranoid, they're so scared, but it's really just this fear of them being alone out there. There's no beast, they're just scared. But that doesn't, it's not depicted that way. It's just like we don't see this like slow unraveling of them being like, oh, we can see these kids are like slowly losing their minds. Like they're becoming so paranoid and so scared and so alone that they're breaking. And we don't see that. I just don't think that was depicted.
No. Or if it was depicted, it was depicted incredibly poor.
Yes. Yes. Incredibly poor. And very like quick to the point where it's like, it's just so, it's unsatisfying. Like we see in like even in episode 3, like, we'll go into it, but a big event happens and then you're like, what the hell? You're like, all of a sudden, like, but we can continue with what happens.
If you, I know you have notes on your side. It's like, would you like to take over and go over episode 3?
Yeah. So in my thing, I literally was like, oh, Yellow Jackets made the beast feel way more frightening. So in episode 3, the big event is that is Simon's death. Is that he like all these kids, especially like Jack's group, and all these kids that have kind of like flocked to Jack's way of thinking, this like savagery and anarchy and I guess being scared of this beast, even though that's not really portrayed, they start to like just become so again, just these like savages. And we see Simon having this like full mental breakdown in the forest, which truly have no clue what was going on there. He's just running around in the forest. He's hearing voices and then he's like running around. And so we see it's kind of like, this like simultaneous thing. It's like Simon is losing it. He's running around in the forest. And then we see the kids kind of just really like ramping it up. We can see that they are just like in this mob mentality and just like on the beach, just like chanting. And they're like, kill the beast, kill the beast. So they're in this mentality like, okay, we are going to we saw the beast and now we're going to kill it. And so they're so high in this mob mentality. And then Simon's running around in the forest and it's not shown well at all, but I guess they see Simon kind of running around. I don't know how, because they're on the beach and Simon's like in the depths of the forest. But they see him running and they so the mob runs kind of to the forest line. Mm-hmm. And then we see them jabbing. Yeah, go ahead.
So what I saw during that moment was because during his mental breakdown, in episode 2 where they get the pig, they have the head of the pig. They've now put the head of the pig in the forest.
Yes.
And the pig is talking to him.
Yes.
Which according to Wikipedia, when I skimmed a thing about these critiques from the original author was, I guess that was in the book that the pig talked to him, and it was supposed to be like the pig figure in the forest was supposed to be kind of like a god figure.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to talk to him. And then they made them remove that. But I think ultimately, whatever does that, makes him kind of go so mentally unwell that he drops to the ground and he's crawling through the forest. He's not running anymore. So that's what I think alarms them, is that he looks almost like he's
you're
needing
right.
to be exercised,
You're
how he's
right.
Crawling on the ground.
You're so right. I forgot that he drops to the ground and he's crawling.
The cutting makes it very unclear what's happening.
Yes.
Because they're kill the beast, and you see the glimpse of a being of some sort. You don't know if it's Simon or not, but then they're stabbing. But that's when you do get a brief moment of kind of human from Jack, where Jack kind of backs up after they've stabbed this thing. And he realizes what he's done. And I did think they were going to end it there, kind of leave it up in the air, what happened, but they do show what happened.
And so you're so right. I forget that he does drop to the ground and he's kind of army crawling. So we can assume it's Simon just crawling out of the forest, but we don't really, they do a good job at kind of he's almost just dark, caked in mud. So and that scene is just so like, it just seems so rushed, like of him kind of like losing his mind. And I think that is supposed to be him breaking, Simon finally like coming to this, like, I don't know what's I don't know what's happening. I'm scared. And like, and there's all this, like, you know, these two state of people going on, and he's just like slowly losing it. And then this pig speaks to him, which I forgot what the pig is supposed to represent in the book. I don't like God or the I don't know, whatever it is.
It brought up almost immediate memories of, well, recent memories from They Will Kill You with the pig.
No, that's exactly what I thought of. That's exactly what I thought of.
I wonder if They Will Kill You, if that's like a reference for Lord of the Flies. Like,
yeah, I mean, possibly that's why I was like, oh, I think it's supposed to represent kind of like this evilness, like this devil-like being, because again, if Simon is this Christ-like being, seeing something so like opposite of what he is, I think would make him crack. And that's when he drops to the ground, starts army crawling. But again, it's like, it's kind of weird because I just don't think that actually like visually, like how they blocked this scene is so like, because they're all on the beach chanting, and then we see Simon crawling in the forest. It's just not really portrayed well that he's like exiting the forest for the mob to see him and be like, there's the beast, and they start stabbing him, because it's like all of a sudden you're like, okay, I think they're killing Simon, but I don't know, because in the last frame that we just saw him and he's in the depths of the forest, and now we see that we're on the beach. And but yeah, Jack then does look, and he's like, oh my God, that's Simon. And he stops and runs away, but the rest of the kids are still doing it. So I think that was probably the only scene that really like truly portrayed how cowardice Jack is. Like where I was like, oh, they actually did a good job at showing that he's a coward. Like, because he is like, that's a common thing that's brought up in the show, is like Jack's a coward. Even though he's like, he puffs his chest, he is a coward at the end of the day. Yeah. But I think that was like, I was like, oh, okay, they did a pretty good job at showing that he is cowardice. And the rest of the kids are now fully losing it, because they've probably realized what happened, and they just still go, you know, and they're just stabbing Jack again at the forest line. And then the end of the episode, Jack is somehow in the water. And I was like, what happened there? Why was he?
I was about to bring that up. Yeah. I'm like, how did he? Yeah. I was like, does the tide go that high?
Yeah. I'm like, he was on the forest line, and then all of a sudden now he's floating dead in the water. I'm like, it's just, I don't know. It's like just the way that it's cut. It just doesn't make sense. Like there's no continuity to it. So you're like, what? Why are all of a sudden we here?
No, absolutely. Yeah. There's so many of those moments throughout the show. And and obviously we're just going on the bullet points, and but yeah, there's just so much filler in the show, so much loose like editing, where it's just like you're supposed to just accept what's happened, like without like knowing why we're from one point to the next point. There's so much of that. It's just supposed to be like you're supposed to accept it.
Yes, exactly.
But it's hard for, well, at least us. I mean, who knows about, you know, people that are just watching it that are huge fans of. I don't know. It's just didn't connect to me.
No, not at all. And that's the thing, is like, I think that this show really does like is going to do a disservice to like new audiences, because again, this is like, I don't know if it's still required reading, but like, and even people that have that have read the book, like I loved this book in high school, so I remember like a lot of it, and like, you know, like the commentary of it. But it's like for people that haven't read this or just have completely forgotten it, they're going to be like, this sucks. Like, you know, they're going to be like, this like doesn't make any sense, and it just like it's just such a disservice. It's like, this is like probably how I feel like people that love like video game, like love a certain video game, and then they watch like a movie adaptation, and you're like, this freaking sucks, where you're like, you did such a disservice. Like, I know the lore, and you're just like, it's not portraying well. We just did a podcast a few months ago
about Silent Hill. Return to Silent Hill, which people, as you were kind of going, like the people that are so dedicated into the game hate that adaptation.
Yes.
And I get it. But yeah, I'm not a big horror game person, so I went into it just as a horror movie person, and I liked it. But I had Gore, the movie guy, who's a YouTuber, I had him on talking about it, and he just went off on it, which I totally understand. Because it's just like, you know, if you're wanting a certain type of adaptation and it's not depicted well, you're going to be angry. And I think this could do that.
And again, it's like, it's also for people, it's like not even, it's the way that I view things like that. It's not even for people like, because I think that there are some people that are like, oh, like, how dare you do like my favorite video game a disservice because it's like, I know the lore, all this stuff. But it's like, when I view things like that, I'm like, this sucks for new fans, because it's like, at least I can make sense of what's going on, but it's like, they can't. And so now it's like, you can't even have new fans of this because you just did it a disservice. And so now it's like, so when I see things like that, like adaptations, for example, like Mortuary Assistant, god awful movie. I played the game. I loved the game. And so like, I was excited to see an adaptation of it, but I was also excited for people to see it and be like, oh my God, this is such a good movie. I want to play the game. Like I'm a new fan. Like I was excited for new fans. And I'm like, well, this freaking sucked. So you're not going to like any of it. So like, it's like, that's the thing. I'm like, oh, well now you just like, it's like, yeah, it sucks for the people that actually like are fans of it, but it sucks for people that were really trying to be like new fans of it. So, but yeah, it's just all around not good. And then we get into episode 4 and I literally have 0 notes on it because it sucked.
Episode 4 is yet another hour. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. There was no need to have it be another hour. None of these episodes need to be an hour. We've gone over that territory, but the groups are split up. They're more split than ever, where most people are on Jack's side. And basically he's doing this weird kind of like dictatorship over there.
Yes.
He calls it democracy. And then he has his face painted like in like blood and I don't know, sand and dirt. That's hard to know where he got.
I don't know what the hell all of a sudden they were like decorated and painted. And I was like, where did you get this? What is happening?
I mean,
cool.
I will say maybe from all the suitcases, they found a bunch of makeup and then just did stuff to their faces.
I kind of assumed it was just like they used the elements, like they found clay and stuff like that. But it's like, that could have still been a really cool scene because, again, I think that's actually something that can depict their savagery to be like, they are now like fully like this army, like this like savage army. But no, they just cut and all of a sudden they're just like in like they almost look like tribal. And I'm like, what?
We'll real quick get into episode 4, but something that happened in, I don't know which episode, but that happened where we get a shot of the water and there's this thing that comes to shore and it's like this big kind of like twiggy mess of something that looked kind of like a body maybe that was like coming to shore. Did you catch that? Like
no.
It was like, it was some kind of like big, it like almost looked like a coffin almost like wrapped in twine that like came to the shore. And it never was brought up again. It was like either at the beginning of Jack episode or episode 3, but it was just like such a weird thing. I thought it was going to be like, oh, they found a dead body from the plane washed up on shore, or maybe it was like more luggage, or as they were like salvaged from the plane, or I don't know. But yeah, I saw that and I was just like, this is such a weird shot to show this big debris or big thing of some sort that looks almost like a body wash up the shore, never to be depicted again. And then I feel like almost immediately after that, it's like, so it hasn't been episode 3. They're about to hunt or go on the hunt for the beast. And he like puts all that dirt on his face. But when they showed the dirt, when he's putting it on his face, did it not look like blood?
To me, it looked like chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, because it was like very like muddy and like clay-like. And also, I thought that okay, so I completely missed that thing washing up to shore. I don't know how I missed that. But like, I also just felt like the interaction between Simon and Jack, because what I'm assuming, I don't remember this in the book, but what I'm assuming is that they are friends. They are like, and Simon's diary is like, you know, oh, Jack was nice today and stuff like that. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, Jack.
The way they were depicting it was kind of like a holdover situation. Like kind of like with you know, that movie Paul Giamatti, where it was just kind of like they were supposed to, oh, highly recommend, but basically like it's like they were kind of like boarding school type kids, which they seem like army school, maybe like military school.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, wow, because they kept coming up, they kept saying the word VAC, which I think is an abbreviation for vacation, maybe. So it's like where like all the other kids are on vacation while they are the ones that are left at home because they don't have a good family life, or not home, at school, because they don't have a family to go back to.
Got it.
They're the holdovers. I think it's kind of like that's where their friendship came to, is like during the winter breaks they were bonded together, but once they came back together, it's kind of like you see sometimes like those kind of like coming of age stories where it's just like, are we going to be friends when we get back to school? It's like, no, I can't be seen with you, but I enjoy our time together. It's kind of like that, I think.
Totally. Okay. Again, I just don't think that was portrayed well. Because I kind of just tuned out during the freaking Simon diary parts, because it's also like,
it's understandable.
There is like, it's funny because sometimes they would play, because it's almost like a narration, like, you know, it's like they're narrating Simon's diary over like things that are happening, but I'm like, it's almost like things that are just like droning on, that you can't even really focus on the narration, at least for me, because I'm just like, there's just nothing for me to hold on to. And also the rest of the show, there's just nothing happening, that I've just tuned out to whatever this narration is. That's at least how I was. So I was like, I think Simon and Jack are like kind of friends, but that makes sense that they're like, you know, it's like, yeah, we're friends, but like low key, I don't want people to know, like, you know?
Yeah.
And so that interaction between Simon and Jack at the pond, whereas Jack is putting on this like camo stuff, it does kind of look like blood, but again, I just think that was the coloring, like however they colored it is just so like ugly. It's just like, everything just looks so high contrasted and just unrealistic, that it's like, and just so visually unappealing, that it's like, I was like, to me, it just straight up looks like chocolate being rubbed on his face. And then like we have Simon, you know, kind of trying to like they have this like weird, awkward interaction where it's like, I just even think that the interaction just wasn't like, it just so hollow. Like it just felt so hollow. I'm like, I get what you guys are trying to do, to be like, yeah, we're kind of friends, but like when we're alone, like, I don't know. To me, honestly, it almost came off more romantic than it did.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, it almost came off romantic, which I don't think I'm almost positive, like not in the book. Like it's not like Simon's like struggling with like his sexuality or anything like that. I think it's more so like, are we friends or like not? And it just didn't come off that way. It came off romantic to me, especially when he's like touching his face. He's like, and I was like, wait, I don't remember Simon like questioning if he was gay or not. I was like, wait, what's happening?
It might just be another thing being like they're on an island, you know, so forth, just like, you know, not having any other kind of connections.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're probably fleshing it out to more than it was in the book.
Yeah.
But not doing well doing that.
Yeah.
So it does look like, because same as you, I don't really have a breakdown on episode 4. Basically, they have divided, and basically it's just the twins. It's Ralph and it's Piggy, and that's really it. And that's the thing, is like they don't really, like at this point in the show, they call them the little ones, like they're gone. Like we never see them again. No. Even when the rescue party comes in at the end of this episode, where are those little kids? Where
are the little kids? No, I thought the same freaking thing. Like I was like, all of a sudden I feel like there's so many biggins, like there's like biggins and little ones, and I'm like, all of a sudden they're just all biggins. I'm like, where the hell are these like 6-year-olds at that have been here this whole time?
It's a good question. They must have just run out of time to shooting. They're like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
but basically they decide to steal Piggy's glasses. They go up to make a fire, and because now Piggy can't see without his glasses, he makes the plan to go and just ask nicely if he can have his glasses back because it's what's right. And at this point in the story, it's like, of course, that's not going to work out well. And things go as bad as they can when they go up there. They're not allowed into the area, but actually they're not allowed in the area, not by Jack, but by, as the aforementioned Roger. Now it becomes a major player this episode. And
all of a sudden.
Yeah. And at that point, they said like when they go up there and they bring up Roger and then like even a little bit later on when they're like, you shouldn't be here. Roger's a madman. It's like, who is Roger?
No, I thought the same freaking thing. So when they like, there's those two kids that are like, no, we can't. You don't know. Roger's mad. He won't let that. And I'm just like, you could have been establishing this from episode 1.
Yeah.
Like that Roger is a tyrant. Like he is supposed to represent pure evil, because with Jack, at least we see moments of humanity and cowardice where he's like, I still have an inner conscience. I probably shouldn't be doing this. And I'm a little bit scared, or I feel a little bit guilty. Roger's supposed to be like, I don't give a flying F. Like I am just like, which we see later in the episode. And it's like, that wasn't established at all. And all of a sudden he's like this main player in the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And basically he tries to get his glasses back, and he causes a fight between Ralph and Jack. And during that, Piggy comes up with the conch and is like, I have the conch, listen to me. And someone hits him over the head with something, a rock. It's unclear what he gets hit with, but it causes him to have basically ultimately a fatal wound.
Yeah.
It takes a while. But
and that was Roger. So that was Roger.
Okay.
Because like, so how it's depicted is, because I watched this twice because I was like, wait.
You watched that scene or the episode?
That scene twice. No,
okay,
hell no.
Okay.
I watched that scene twice. Could not make it through that episode twice. But like, I thought in the book, I could be misremembering this. I thought Piggy's death was instant. Like I thought it was instant, but maybe it's not. But in the show, Jack is like, make Piggy shut up, and like Roger's like, okay, and so he just and again they did such a poor job at introducing or establishing Roger's character, because Roger just picks up a rock and hucks it at Piggy's head, and that's when he gets like knocked out, and again, like you said, it's a fatal wound. But it's like, and then that's when we see Jack like, oh my god, like you just like bashed his head in with this rock. You can tell like when we look at Jack where he's like, oh my god, like I can't believe you just did that. But then he tries to kind of like be like, yeah
like,
I
ordered this. Yeah,
like I ordered this. But like you can tell that Roger has no remorse. Roger's like, yeah, you told me to do it, so I did it. And I can see that he's bleeding out of his head, but I don't care. Like, you know, like, and again, it's just not like they could have made Roger's character so maniacal and menacing, because that's like scary. To be like, that's sociopathic. To have a kid that just have no conscience like that is so scary. And they just didn't. He's just kind of like this side character that it's like, oh, it's not even that crazy to me because you're just this hollow character. Like you're just this background character that did it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the twins are captured here. Somehow Ralph and Piggy escape. And even though he has to like drag him, it feels like they would have definitely caught them, but they end up escaping. He hides Piggy enough where they do spend the night together, where there's like I'm going to say quote unquote emotional scene between them.
Yeah.
Because there's like, we've kind of said over and over, these characters are very hollow. They don't really have much of a pull. So there's nothing to really pull like your heartstrings, because they don't exist. But I don't get the quote there. I don't get the quote. The quote is where they're talking one-on-one, and he's obviously about like he's on the verge of dying, and he's like I never forget a face, but I wish I would forget yours. He like says something like that.
I actually have now I remember that. I actually don't know what that was supposed to represent. Like I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's because like Ralph kind of does Piggy dirty in the sense that like Ralph wasn't really like up to the challenge of like truly like he would still fall under Jack's spell every once in a while and like be like, you know, like succumb to peer pressure and do Piggy wrong and stuff. But like, so I don't know if that's what it was, but it's like, that just didn't seem like what the scene was portraying. He was kind of like, you tried to be my friend. So I don't know. I want to like look into that. Like what does that, did you look into it?
No.
Let's see. Piggy, Lord of the Flies, forget a face quote.
Probably somebody they just came up with.
No, I literally don't think because he says I never forget a face.
Well, he also brings up early on in the show after he's been like they steal his glasses and they like kick him down or whatever, and then he's just like, I'll never let them hurt you. It's like you just did.
No, I know.
And then that happens again. So it's kind of like he's not able to. He's like, you clearly don't have the power to. But let me see. Let me try pulling it up because I can just play like a little clip. But because I might have quoted it wrong, but yeah, it's just as you said, like the performances aren't like bad, but it's just like there's not enough like growth within their characterization to really make me care. Let's see. That's when you're rescued. And then also in episode 4, we are introduced to our first, we get some adult characters in the previous episode, but no one I recognized. But episode 4, we do get our first pair of actors that I do know. And so I was like, oh, actually people I know. And so like that, we have, trying to think what his name is. I wrote it down somewhere. Right at the very bottom. Piggy. Ralph's dad is I didn't get his name, but he plays the pretty much the only man in Men besides her like partner. I don't know if you ever watched Men.
I never watched Men. You know, it's so funny. It's
he gives a really good performance.
No, it's been on my watch list for freaking years, and I want to watch it so badly. It's just one of those. But okay, wait, let me see. This was Ralph's dad.
Ralph's dad. He plays it basically in Men. There's really just two men in the movie Men.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And there's like Jessie Buckley. I was forgetting her name. Jessie Buckley's the lead, and then in that movie, her partner has committed death to himself, and he
Rory Kinner, is that his name? Rory Kinner.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So and he's the only character that's in the film besides her partner that we see flashbacks of. But he plays so many different versions of himself, like a little kid with his face, and he does a great job. It's a weird movie, and I really want to know your opinion once you see it because the ending is like I think what gets people because it makes them either hate it or.
That's exactly what people say is like that's why I never really watched it when it first came out because there was like mixed reviews. But okay, I totally know his face. I don't know exactly what I know him from, but he's like one of those where you're like, oh, I've seen because he's in a ton of things. So you're like, oh, I've seen him before.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, is this the clip?
Yeah, I think so.
Don't you call when you sleep?
You won't feel cold when you sleep.
Come to a tropical island and feel a bit nippy.
Can you hear that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Ralph, I'm just cold. You're cold too. Do you know any Rachel Marks? I'm sorry I told them you were called Piggy. I I never forget a face. In your case.
Oh, I'm glad to make an exception. No, but that is what I'm saying, though. Because he's saying, I never forget a face. But in your case, I'm glad to make an exception. So he's asking to forget his face. So.
So he says, do you know Groucho Marx? So I guess I just looked it up, and this is a American comedian and actor. So Piggy is quoting something. So, I have met before, but okay. So he says, I never forget a face, but in your case, I'd be glad to make an exception.
Mm-hmm.
It's a joke, but I don't understand it. Like, it's supposed to be a joke.
That's the entirety of the joke? Okay.
That's the entire. It's like, it says,
It's all right.
It says Groucho Marx on meeting a prominent actress. I never forget a face, but I'm going to make an exception in your case. I don't understand it.
Okay. So if we don't understand it, I feel like a lot of people also are going to question what exactly is the meaning.
I know. I'm like, I want to know, like, I don't. It's famous. It's a clever. Okay. So I just Googled it.
Okay.
It's a clever paradox designed to insult someone by implying they are so unmemorable or insignificant. So maybe that's what that was, like Piggy's like dying breath, because I think that's maybe that's what it was, where it's like he kind of knows that Ralph is not smart. Piggy's like the only intelligent one. This is just what I'm speculating is that, and Ralph made a promise, like, I'm not going to let them hurt you. And he did nothing. Like, really, Ralph did nothing to protect Piggy, but Piggy was always like Ralph's lieutenant, like, you know? So maybe that's what it was, where he's like, but I'd be glad to make an exception, where he's just like, dude, I just don't even want, like, and this is, now I'm dying.
Yeah.
And you could have easily, you know, not caused this, but you're just like too much of a coward and you didn't know how to do anything and you never stood up for me.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. No, I like that.
That's what I'm going to assume.
Because really, the way that it was portrayed doesn't make sense, but the way you're describing it, better.
and it's again, like, it's like, I don't know. It's an interesting quote, because I think it is a hard one. Like, it makes sense. Like, when I'm reading the quote by itself, it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to forget you. But again, it just comes down to how they portrayed their relationship. It's like, I don't think that they portrayed it well enough, where it's like, Ralph, you bastard. Like, you know, Piggy's always on your side, and you're supposed to, like, you guys are supposed to be a team, and you're just out here like acting a fool. Like, I think sometimes they did, like, for example, like when they're trying to make the fire, and they're stealing Piggy's glasses, and it's like, and he's like, Ralph, and Ralph's like, and he just takes the glasses. It's like, those are moments where it's like, Ralph, dude, like, you're just following the pack, like, you know, like, but that's what I'm assuming it is where he's just like, dude, now you've pretty much caused my death. So
yeah. Okay. I mean, that's the best way to go about that quote, because I can't really see it any other way, because I went from I don't understand to, you know, I guess I sort of understand. So, but ultimately, from we now know that Piggy has passed away, and we see this kind of like odd kind of like brutality scene where he's like hitting the ground, but we don't, like, it almost seems like he's hitting Piggy at first, like with some kind of stick, but he's like digging a hole by hitting it. I don't know. He might just be getting anger out. It's a weird shot where he's but he ultimately decides to give Piggy a burial, which is what he wanted for the pilot at the top of the cliff. And he goes on his way. From here, he goes and speaks to the twins, and this is where they warn him about Roger, which we mentioned earlier on. Roger notices that they're talking to someone, and he lets them know that that now Piggy has died, and to let them know that they caused that and they shouldn't be with them. There's a chase that goes on. Ultimately, they lose track of him. Jack's alone, and him and Ralphie, not Ralphie, it's a Christmas Story. Ralph and Jack have a one-on-one fight where he's just like, I don't want to be the leader. You be the leader. Like, I'm done with this. Like, just like you're like, just let me be. And then Jack makes the decision to call over to have him killed, and then he runs out of the forest. And I don't think I'm missing anything here, right?
No.
This is like, yeah, he runs out of the forest. They're chasing him like madmen with weapons. And then he comes across the first adult who it looks like a captain maybe or someone from aboard a ship who's just like, it's like, oh, are you guys playing war? He's like, are there any dead bodies? And then Ralph is honest and says, at least 2. And he kind of chokingly says that. But there's clearly more than 2.
Yeah.
But there's as far as his knowledge, I guess there would be now Piggy, and then before that there was Simon. But then we know at least the kid with the birthmark, but then also probably all these little kids that are not there.
And like, I actually did think that they did a good job at portraying that scene where, because the captain or whoever the hell this guy is like, you know, he's like, oh, you guys just playing war? And like, you could tell that he's like, oh, like, but I also thought it was kind of crazy that he wasn't like, the hell are these kids doing on this deserted island? Like, you know, I was like,
he's very calm.
Yeah, he's very calm, and he's just kind of like, oh, you guys just playing war? And then that's when Ralph, you know, is like, oh, and then the captain jokes like, oh, any dead bodies? And that's when Ralph is like, oh, 2. And then I think they did do a good job at portraying the captain being like, oh my God, I was just kidding. Because he like takes off his hat and he like looks so distraught, like, wait, you guys are actually out here killing each other. Like, that's absolutely insane. So I felt like that was portrayed pretty well, at least with like in that writing scene, or just like with this man's acting.
And coming up to like their first adult, this is when now Jack, Roger, none of them want to take responsibility, and so now it all falls onto Ralph to be like, I'm the one to blame for this whole thing, which is not right, but that's ultimately just how it had to be.
And they immediately go into like this childlike where they're like, oh my God, an adult's here, and so now we have to like, they're all like, oh, like they stop yelling, like they don't approach him, like it's, you know, they're just like immediately like, oh shit, like authority is here, you know? And from what we can assume, like a military type background too, it's like he's also like somebody with like, you know, medals on him. Yeah, he's decorated.
So it's definitely like, we have to treat him with respect. He's, you know, not only an adult, but also an officer or a captain or something of that nature. So we have to stop what we're doing, like you were saying, Gigi, and, you know, treat them with respect, which they've not been doing to any of the other kids. It's just basically been, you know, all out, as the adult said, kind of war, but not play war. So, but then they just walk off the screen, and then that's the end. They pan up and we see birds and show's over. And I mean, I feel like that just kind of describes the show, where it's just kind of like, I guess that's it.
I know, that's exactly like how it felt. You're like, okay, like that's exactly how the entire show feels. You're just watching and you're like, okay, I'm just going to accept this. Like, there's nothing. All right. There is nothing remarkable or spectacular about this. Like, I don't know. It's so funny because I have like my grading system for movies. Like I've kind of like, I got that like honed in. I always tell people I'm so bad at rating TV shows because I'm very lenient with TV shows. Like, I feel like sometimes it's almost like, so like, I don't usually the TV shows that I tune into, I usually like them. Like, I'm like, there was like, and I don't know if it's just because they've been recommended, so I only watch the good ones. And this is the one that I like first like went into like blind, but I was like, oh my God, this is one of like the first like bad TV shows that I've watched that I'm like, oh my God, like what would you give it as an overall score? I'm so curious.
Well, what is your scoring system? And then we'll kind of go into the Cinefied scoring system.
Mine is just it's like Letterboxd. Like mine's like a 5 point. So like I would.
So it's out of 5. Okay.
So it's out of 5. So I'm like, okay, like the way that I think of it is like 2.5 would be like average. Like, you know, it's an average movie. It's watchable. Didn't love it. Didn't hate it. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of skews from there. Like 3 is like, okay, that was interesting, watchable. And then 3.5 is like, that's kind of like a must watch movie. A 4, you know, it's like almost like, so it's like, it kind of goes from there. But I always feel like I start at like if you can understand what my 2.5 is, then I feel like that's like a good thing. Gotcha. So this to me is like, this is like maybe like a 1.5.
Okay. Yeah. No, well,
I thought it was truly so bad. I thought it was so bad.
Because obviously, I do think Letterboxd needs to open up to TV shows, but I don't know if
it's too complicated. Do you use
for them.
Serialized?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with that one actually.
Serialized is like it's like Letterboxd, but for TV shows. It's just not as like, it's not as good. It's like not. Okay. Yeah, it's just not as intuitive. And I wish that Letterboxd, like, because I would use Letterboxd for TV shows. I see a lot of people do it. I don't. You know, I watch like something very bad is going to happen. I don't log those on Letterboxd because I don't want it to be lumped in with the amount of films I've watched.
The only thing I log into Letterboxd that are TV is like Black Mirror, because each episode is like its own movie kind of.
Okay, yeah, that's so fair. If it's like one thing, or like I did log like when Guillermo del Toro did the Cabinet of Curiosities, where each one is like its own story and like its own director. Those I'll log in because again, it's almost like a movie. But,
you kind of do the same with like Creep Show and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but like if it's something like the Haunting of Hill House or like those where it's like a limited series, I sometimes will, but I've really tried to not do it. Because I'm like, I just don't want that lumped into my like overall film.
No, I understand that. Yeah, I'm very, I don't generally put TV in there because it just, it messes with my head.
Yeah. I just like, my brain is just like, no, these are my stats for my movies and I want separate stats for my TV shows.
Yeah, exactly. So on my Letterboxd profile, I have my star ratings. This is just my personal, not the Cinefied scale. 5 stars is a masterpiece. 4.5 is an almost perfect. 4 is superb, minor flaws. 3.5 is great. 3 is decent. 2.5 is so. Then below that, it's kind of like, think about if you should watch this.
Yeah.
So 2 is disappointing. 1.5 is a poor film. 1 is a regrettable experience, and 1/2 is unbearable.
Yes. So, okay. That's honestly pretty much like how mine is too.
So if I were to put that into the star rating, I would probably put it at 2 star. I would say disappointing.
I think that's so fair. I almost put it at 2, but when I start thinking of so many other things where I'm like, oh, it's not just the writing. It was also these like technical aspects of it. Like I hated the way it visually looked. I didn't like the way that they filmed it. Like I didn't like the score, because those are almost like things where it's like, you know, I tried to look at it all as a whole, but sometimes like, I just don't even like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, wow. Like everything else was like just kind of like fine, like production was fine, but just like story was just so bad that it's like a 2, or like I don't know, just like everything about it was just so bad to me.
I wouldn't go as that far, but I understand. Yeah. It was a rough experience at times for sure.
No, totally. But I think 2 is so fair. Because do I think it's unwatchable? No, I don't. I do not think that it's an unwatchable show.
I do go towards the Rotten Tomatoes audience score of this more so than the critic score. It's at a 90-some% on critics.
I don't get it.
The audience score, I don't remember what it was. I sent you, I think, or no, I just said it was negative, but it's 50.
It's something like 50, which okay, like
probably right. Yeah.
But the critics score being that high is crazy to me. I don't know if it's just because it's based on like a well-respected piece of literature that they're like, I don't know, because I'm like, literally what about this is good. Yeah.
I will say that I'd rather have a adaptation like this than an adaptation of another famous literature such as Andy Serkis's Animal Farm. Oh my God.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah,
No,
that
1,000%.
was an experience. But I figure before we close out and we give our official Cinefied score, which we'll go over, was there anything else in your notes that we did not go over, like anything critique wise, or anything of that nature? I feel like we covered most things. There was a few things that I did fail to bring up. One was during the first episode. They do, when all the characters are introduced, and they do kind of like a circle of all the characters, and they do this weird Wes Anderson like close up of the faces.
Hated that.
I was not sure what that was about.
And then like they would do it kind of often. Like they did it, I think, again in episode 2, and it was like some of the same characters because the like the mulberry birthmark.
They did it when the pig got killed.
Yes,
when he slit the throat. They did a circle. Yeah,
and I was like,
why are we doing this?
I just don't. I hate this. Like I just didn't like it, and I think that was their way of being like, because there's so many characters. Like these are the characters, and these are how we're individualizing them. And I'm like, nope. Because all these 10 faces of these kids aren't going to stick in my head. I have no clue who they are. Like, I hated that. I was not a fan of that.
Oh, was there any other notes that you?
Nope. I just really want to know if that one scene with Jack looking in the water is AI. I really, I need to do some digging because and I hate like being like, oh, this is AI without truly like knowing and it being verified because, dude, I myself have been tricked by AI. Sometimes I watch videos and I'm like, that's AI. I'm like, but like, it just looks so bad. Like so bad.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I have in my notes is I put down one. I did put moral of the story. I hate kids, but I did put one quote, which I was just like, this is just the definition of the writing in this film, where he says, "The piggy afraid of piggies." To Piggy at one point, and I'm just like, oh my God, is this all this Jack character has? But yeah, I'm also curious how much of this, if any of it, was AI or if it's just really terribly shot.
I know. I'm so curious. I need to know.
But on the Cinefied scale, we're gonna end it here. Would you give this a must-see popcorn, which is a full, a maybe popcorn, which is a half, or a spilled popcorn, which is a mistake? Which one would you give it?
I am going to give it a spilled popcorn. Like, I think that this is like, it's not unwatchable, but you can absolutely skip it. Like, I do think that it is like, it's totally skippable.
Yep.
I think
I'm in the same boat.
The mark. Yeah. Okay, good. I was like,
Same boat.
I usually hate being so negative about like, media and stuff, but it's like, this is just so, they missed the mark on everything, especially like with such a prestigious, like just well-respected book that has so many themes, like in-depth themes, like, just loss of innocence, like civilization versus anarchy, like just like internal fear and stuff. It's like, they just missed the mark on all of that, I feel like.
No, absolutely. And yeah, as I said, this is a spilled, but I would still recommend this over watching Animal Farm that's coming out later. It comes out almost the exact same time, both with very weird adaptations for the year. But I think that pretty much ends it here. Thanks so much, Gigi, for coming on and staying way over what we discussed. But,
no, you're so good. I had a great time just bashing this. I texted you and I was like, I can't wait to just rip this to shreds.
But you can find Gigi on pretty much all socials under the same tag, right?
Yep. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, any form of social media I am on. All of it is RoomForScream. So if you're looking for horror, thriller recommendations, breakdowns, spoilers, what's new, what's upcoming, I got you.
All right. And that ends it here. Thank you all for listening to the Cinefied podcast. Make sure to grab a drink, some popcorn, and remember, stay Cinefied. See you guys next time.